What up, what up? It's your girl Peacock out here in Singapore, you guys, live. Not so late, it's about 10 o'clock at night on Hump Day Wednesday out here. Um, I had a lot going on today, and I feel really good about it because I've slowly begun to turn my days around, my habits, my little things that I do every day, right? So, I'm not still getting up at the time my alarm rings. I still hit the snooze button a couple times, but I'm getting into a habit. I'm getting into a pattern, a groove. Once I get up and drop baby girl off at school, I come back home and I chill. I chill until about 8 o'clock. So I have about 35 to 45 minutes where I get a chance to have a cup of coffee, a little bit of breakfast. I do a little bit of brain training. It's my meditation for the morning. And then I start reading or listening to something just to kind of get my creative juices flowing and I get to work. So lately it's been all about Mastin Kipp. I have been in the Get Ideal Clients Masterclass, which was spread out over 3 different sessions, and that was over the course of a week. It was brilliant. I mean, he outstanding. He delivered like beyond my wildest expectations, and I couldn't be more grateful. So I've been kind of slowly digesting. I feel like, I had the itis. I was totally overwhelmed and just full of information and trying to digest slowly all the things that he talked about, all the notes that I wrote. And what I realized is, yeah, I really, really, really like rewriting my notes so that I can understand it better. But yeah, been going over it, go over it. Very lucky because he's allowed the replay until Friday or Saturday of this week, in Singapore time, obviously. So it's been fascinating what I learned the first day versus listening to the first day again today. It kind of reiterated some things and certain things jumped out at me. So I really do believe in, if you get the chance, go back over things. If you buy classes and actually go through them, keep them. Make sure you have them categorized in such a way that you can go back and access them if you need to. That way you can go back through and see what it means to you, at a later date, at a point in your journey that's further than you were when you first listened to it. So I believe in all that stuff. Anyway, aside from digesting this colossal meal, all this information that Mastin Kipp was so generous in providing, I have been dealing with real life as well, right? So we have, we actually have a modeling shoot tomorrow, possibly. I get to look at contracts, and I'm hoping, with any luck, Empire Artists will be home for a little while, at least to, explore our opportunities and expand our horizons a little bit. So that's for me and for baby girl. So I'm actually really excited about that. Outside of that, though, it's school as usual. Next week happens to be term break, September holidays, because term 3 is over, term 4 is starting, and it won't be long before baby girl's in third grade. So I've had to buckle down and really pay attention a little bit more. And we got like a holistic assessment card. It's not called a report card. It's called a holistic assessment card where they grade you based on one, two, three, or four smiley faces. Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, looked over that and I thought nothing of it until today when I went to pick her up. Because I was volunteering at the school, I volunteered twice today at 2 different times to read to first grade and second grade. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. But at both times, one of baby girl's teachers approached me, and it seems that she is the fidget master and she is having a lot of difficulty focusing in class. Now, when she's at home, and yes, I'm a homeschool mom, Montessori method, all that stuff, I know when it's just me and her, because it's one on one, she doesn't need as much attention and she doesn't need as much time to grasp the concept that I'm trying to teach. Now, a teacher with 30 kids in class, different story. And she has a finite number of hours to be able to get all this information drilled into these kids' head and hope to God that they actually retain it for the next time that they get into class. So, basically what started all of this heart to heart that I had to have, was I went to pick her up. I was in the process of finishing up answering a couple of questions from the live interview I did today earlier with Chatura De Silva of Project POH, which is, it stands for the Pursuit of Happiness. And I was just, clearing up some doubts and, just chatting in general. And all of a sudden I looked up and baby girl was sitting in front of me and I said, "Hey, you okay?" And she had this look on her face like she was on the verge of tears. And I knew if I continued pressing her in front of all those people, she would have busted out in tears. So I, decided, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's go find like a nice park bench, just sit down and we'll talk. And she did. She busted into tears and she was really upset. And I said, "Well, what happened?" She says, "I got in trouble with the teacher." I said, "Okay, well, that's not necessarily a big deal. What happened? What was the context? What happened? She said, well, she was mad at me because I started cutting a worksheet before she told us that we can't cut the worksheet. So she was mad because I jumped the gun and I wasn't listening to her. And I said, well, are you sure? She brought you to tears over cutting a worksheet? And she goes, yeah. I mean, I know I'm not a very good student and I don't feel so good about myself and I know I should be better and I'm not very good at this and basically she was telling me she sucked and she didn't like who she was and I was like, whoa, okay, time out. And I told her, look, I'm not mad at you. I am happy you told me this. I am a little perturbed that you're this upset about something. So I'm going to do what I think is right and I'm going to step in and I'm going to talk to the teacher to find out the rest of the story. Now, this isn't the first time I've done that with a teacher. I did it back in first grade when baby girl was in, P1 for the first time. New student, new class, new situation because kindergarten was nothing like primary school. Kindergarten, you can get up and go do what you want when you wanted to. You had a lot of room to get up and move around. Whereas suddenly in primary school, you have to sit at a desk and not get up, and you have to ask permission just to sip water. So it was very difficult for her, who is a very carefree, loving spirit. And I had to talk to the teacher, mostly because also we had a trip planned. Last year, during her first grade year, we went off to Sri Lanka for 10 days. Because it was my grandmother's birthday and I was there to help her celebrate because she turned 100. We had tons of family flying from all corners of the globe and it was a big to-do. We had 180 of us show up, like Raseo strong. Anyway, the point is that I had to ask permission from the principal to take her out of school for 10 days. I had to assure her that it would not be an ongoing thing. And I said, look, how many times do you know of people in your family turning 100? Not that often, so chill, we'll be back. We're not going to make the habit of this. But the thing is, she missed that rapport building in those 10 days because it was within the first 3 weeks of school. So then she was at loggerheads with her teacher. Teacher didn't understand her. She didn't understand the teacher and lots of miscommunication. So back then I had to put my foot in and I had to ask, hey, Olivia. Yeah, so I had to put my foot in and I had to step in and talk to the teacher. And obviously when I called and said, hey, what's going on? Why is she so upset with you? She's afraid of you. She got defensive. That was the first response to her. And I was intrigued because if she's defensive, that means she is worried about what I think of her, which is a good thing. I don't want her to be terrified of me, but I do want her to be worried about what might be being fed back to me at home and what actual reality is. So she agreed to sit down and talk to me. We sat down face to face and I very quickly put her at ease to let her know that no, we are not enemies here. It's not you versus me to take care of baby girl. It's both of us. It is a community effort because while I'm at work, it is your responsibility to raise my daughter. And when she comes home, it is my responsibility to raise my daughter. But the point being that both of us are working toward the same goal. As in, when I get home, I'm not trying to undo everything you did. And when you get her at school, you're not trying to undo everything I did. Right? So once she understood that, she realized that she needed to take a step back. And as frustrated as she is with 30 kids in class, she needs to recognize that my daughter is different, just like everybody else in class. Primary 1, first grade, everybody is different. And none of those kids have any idea how they learn. They can't articulate to save their lives how they learn. And the same thing with my baby girl. So first of all, she's an only child, right? Not raised around a lot of other kids, so she likes attention. And the teacher, being the sole adult in the room, she's going to want all your attention, which she's going to have to learn is not possible, but that's where she's coming from. For the teacher to understand that I'm a single mom without any help at home, put her at ease a little bit, realizing that I'm doing the best I can just like she is. And now that we both understand that the common goal is to raise a brave, confident, inquisitive child, we were no longer fighting each other. So then she kind of, took it down a notch and she developed a soft spot for Athena. And so she got to a place where she was able to teach her effectively. Same thing with her mother tongue teacher. I had to have a conversation with her so she understood what was going on at home. Now, we don't speak Tamil all that much in the house. We should, but we don't. And part of that was because for so long, It was just me and her in the house. There is no helper. There is no family. There is no cousins, brothers, mothers, grandmothers, nothing. It's just me and her. So for the most part, we speak in English. So I had to explain that to the mother tongue teacher and explain to her also that the type of Tamil that we speak is not generally spoken here in Singapore. The vocabulary, the slang that we use is not the same as what you speak here in Singapore. Sri Lankan Tamil, Jaffna Tamil, is very, very different. It's very old-fashioned. It's very official sounding. It's very respectful sounding. So she had to understand that the things that the words that we use were not the same as the words y'all use. So it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, which also means that I had to step up my game. I had to start learning the way she was learning so I could reinforce what she needed to know. So that was all last year. Okay? This year, what ended up happening was halfway through the school year, her teacher decided she was going to go on a sabbatical and she had a new teacher, which means suddenly the rules that used to apply no longer apply, and she had to relearn the expectations of this new teacher. So of course, I'm pretty sure every one of those students were testing that teacher. Every one of them. Which is why every time I happened to see that teacher, when I was on my rounds doing library reading and other volunteer work at the school, I would see her shouting. Now, I'm not one to judge. I know that teaching is not easy, and especially that age group of kids. 8-year-olds can't sit still to save their lives. They're not built that way. I'm pretty sure they have ants in their pants. It's just the way it is. But I understand that, and the way I teach is very different from the way she teaches. And I know part of that is because their expectations of how the decorum they expected inside of a classroom based on Singapore's Ministry of Education. They're very, very narrow-minded. They're very, very conservative. So if they were to walk past me running a classroom, they'd probably see the kids doing jumping jacks in the middle of class, in the middle of the day, because I know that if I can just get them tired enough, they'll probably focus. It's the way I taught 3rd grade spelling. It's the way I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade PE. I broke it up so that they weren't bored by the monotony of what was going on. Anyway, the point being, I'm not the one teaching. I need to understand what my teacher is going through. I need to understand the kind of stress that she faces on a daily basis in order to understand the context in which she was upset with my daughter. So once I got the whole story, baby girl and I had to have a heart-to-heart, like a real heart-to-heart. Not to get the, why are you crying, but to understand what was going on. Now, she was really nervous. She was on pins and needles while I was on the phone with the teacher, but it was on speaker so she could hear what was going on. And then I got her in the room by herself just to sit down and talk. I asked her, because both teachers that approached me today said the same thing. She fidgets. She takes apart her pencils. She plays with toys. She draws all of this little, post-it notebook thing she has in her pencil case, which means her attention is elsewhere, not on what the teacher was teaching. So I had to sit back down with baby girl and I was like, look, I had a feeling, I had intuition. I had a feeling that she likes to be the person that makes everyone laugh in class. So I asked her, you like sharing your ideas with people, don't you? She said, yeah. I said, do you like it when people laugh with you in class? She said, yeah, I really like it. I said, do you like to blurt out things or make jokes in the middle of class? She said, yeah, I do. It's really fun because then everyone laughs with me and then I know I have friends. And I said, okay, I understand that. But can you imagine what that feels like for the teacher? And I had to put it into context. I had to tell her, hey, when you really, really urgently want to teach me something that you learned in school, maybe you taught, you learned a new origami something in art class, you want to come home and teach me. If I constantly crack jokes with my mom while you're trying to teach me, do you enjoy it or do you get mad? She said, I get mad. I usually throw things. I said, yeah, you usually throw things. So let's think about that. You're doing it to your teacher. Can you imagine how mad she would get? So of course, she's looking for you to mess up because you're making a habit of it. So of course she's going to pick on you. Of course she's going to feel like she always catches you. She catches nobody else but you because you're always drawing attention to yourself. The next question I asked her was, if you wanted to teach people, if you were on the playground, let's say you were on the playground and you found out that there were other kids out there that were having a little bit of trouble climbing up the slide because everyone was doing it, they want to do it too, and they had trouble climbing up the slide, what would you do? She said, oh, you know me, I would go over in there, help them. I said, great, but why do you do that? She said, well, because if I can do it, I should help the next person. I said, absolutely. That's exactly what I wanted you to say, because if you were the oldest in your classroom and they were all your brothers and sisters, and you knew some of them were really smart, they don't need your help, but some of them have a little trouble, what would you do? She said, if I could, I'd definitely help them. And I said, look, that's what the teacher's trying to do. And if you're always taking the attention of the teacher, can she pay attention to your brothers and sisters who don't get it? No, they can't. And I said, well, what can you do to help? She said, well, I could focus, or at least not distract everyone so that if they need help, they can ask for help. And I said, yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly what you should be doing. But I also told her, look, I need you to stop drawing attention to yourself all the time, because when you really are stuck and you want to get some help, they're not going to take you seriously. They're going to think that you're playing a joke. And I talked to her about the Smurfs. Jokey, no one trusts Jokey. They want to, but they know something's going to blow up in their face eventually, because that's the reputation he has. And I told her, look, if you constantly are disrupting the class or disturbing the teacher, so the point that the teacher can't really focus on anybody else but you, she's going to assume, once you do ask for help, that you're not being serious, that you're being sarcastic, that you're being facetious, that you're being just obnoxious because you can. So I told her it's really important, in order for you to be taken seriously, in order for you to be fair to the other kids in the class, for you to be a real team player, you need to find a way to focus. Now I said, you can't fidget with your toys, you can't fidget with your pencils, you can't, start drawing stuff while the teacher's writing or teaching the lesson, because it's very distracting. I said, is there anything else you can do that maybe will help you get rid of the energy you have? And she said, I shake my leg sometimes. I said, okay, cool. We'll go with that. You shake your leg. Does that upset the teacher? And she goes, no. She doesn't notice. She doesn't say anything. I said, perfect. So why don't we stick to that for now? It's a way for you to get the energy out. But it also helps you calm down and focus. And the reason I brought that up is because when she was homeschooling with me, she couldn't sit in a seat to save her life. She would be hanging upside down. She'd have one knee on the floor with the other part, half her butt on the seat. She'd be hanging from the table. She'd be leaning over side. It was just strange. And it drove me nuts because I couldn't focus. I was worried about how often she was going to fall. So what I did instead, I got one of those exercise balls, the really big ones. And I told her, look, you're going to sit on this and you're going to do your homework. And guess what? It did the trick, because while she tried really hard to keep her balance on the ball as she sat on it, she was able to focus and get her work done. That was it. That was the magic behind that. She needed something to harness all of the energy that was coursing through her veins so that her brain could focus on what was being told. Sometimes a heart-to-heart is all you really need. I can't help my daughter understand the teacher until I understand the teacher. And the teacher can't get the message through to my daughter until she talks to me and asks me to help. Because who knows her better than me? Nobody. This is why I teach emotional intelligence. Because what I see from the outside, you may not see because you've been staring at it every day, all day, for the past I don't know how long. Sometimes you need a new perspective. Sometimes you need somebody to come in from outside to help you understand, hey, okay, this is a part of the picture you're not seeing. But it does affect the situation. You need to consider it. I'm not here to judge what you've been doing so far. I'm not here to tell you you're right and they're wrong, or vice versa. If you ask me for help, my whole purpose is to show you that there may be a better way to do things. There may be other things to consider before you make a decision. And if you're really hell-bent on maintaining this relationship, whatever the relationship may be, husband, wife, child, mother, father, sibling, co-worker, colleague, classmate. If you treasure the relationship and you're going through a bit of a spat, What you might need is another person's set of eyes on the situation so they can tell you what you might be missing. Heart-to-heart conversations don't have to be all about your feelings. They could just be enough to make you see a little more clearly. And that might mean the difference between cutting someone off and becoming great friends whose friendship transcends a couple of decades. It's all about your intention. It's all about your goal. And for me today, it was about making sure my daughter understood that she's not a bad student, she's young, and that she doesn't suck at school, she just doesn't have the skill set yet. She's young. And I needed her to understand that there's nothing that she can go through in life that she can't learn to make better if she wants. So she decided today that the relationship between her and her teacher was worth saving. And when I told her that if she looked at her classmates as her brothers and sisters, it changed the way she felt about them. It was no longer a competition about who gets the attention. It was more like, how can I make sure that the people who need help get the help they need, that I'm not standing in the way? And I did that because that's the kind of person she is naturally. That's not something I need to teach her. That's what she naturally gravitates towards. So to put it in terms that are natural for her, she suddenly understood what her mistake was. I hope this made sense, you guys. I hope this helped illustrate a couple things. As always, you know, this podcast is about documenting my journey, letting you know the things that I learned along the way, the things that I see along the way, and then how it is that I manage this business single mom life. Because no, it's not easy, but it's so absolutely worth it. And I want you to know, yeah, I struggle too. Yeah, I stumble too. Yeah, I fall back into stupid patterns and lose my temper too. But bottom line, I'm human, just like you. And if I can find my way out of it, you know you can. All right, you guys, I'm going to call it a night and I'll catch you again soon. Bye.